Good morning, friends. I'm Dr. Jason from Providence Neuro. Did you know that our brains are constantly predicting the future? We live in a chaotic world, and our brains have evolved a cognitive trick to simplify our world. The trick is to keep predicting the future by generalizing or stereotyping based on past experience. This trick has allowed us to make quick judgments and survive in a confusing environment. For example, by generalizing based on past experience, we quickly decide whether we like or dislike someone even before talking to them. Suppose we get bitten by one dog, we generalize saying all dogs are dangerous and we tend to avoid all dogs, right? That's what I mean by predicting by generalizing. But in a constantly changing world, the same shortcuts which helped us before can lead to rigid and inflexible thinking and even bigotry. Today we'll look at the science behind this and look at how to identify our stereotypes and look beneath the surface. The concept of your brain predicting what's gonna happen based on clues is not a new one. The 19th century Russian scientist Ivan Pavlov trained his dogs to expect food whenever a bell rang. The dogs got conditioned into thinking that they'll get food whenever the bell rang, and they started salivating whenever the bell rang. Basically, whenever the bell rang, the dogs predicted that they were going to get food, and they started preparing their body by producing more saliva to eat the food. I'll explain the mechanism behind how the brain predicts what's gonna happen. The brain is sitting in a dark place inside the skull, right? So how does the brain make sense of what's happening around us? There are two main sources of information for the brain. The first one includes the 5 senses, including touch, vision, hearing, and all that. The senses give information about what is around us, but they don't paint the entire picture. So how does the brain complete the picture? The other source of information for the brain is memory. Based on memory of past experience, the brain converts the sensory stimuli into a meaningful experience. Basically, the senses provide a pencil diagram, and by combining it with memory, the brain creates a colorful picture. Based on past memories, we keep predicting what the senses are trying to convey, and so our stereotypes keep distorting what we perceive through our senses. We'll see how this happens by looking at examples from real life. If you serve the same coffee to some people in a paper cup and to some people in an expensive looking styrofoam cup, the people drinking from the expensive cup are more likely to find the coffee tasty. Are you surprised? If I tell you that a fruit jelly is farm fresh, it will taste better to you. But if I tell you that the jelly is made from hoofs of cows, it won't taste that good, even though it's true. If the menu card describes a dish as perfectly cooked or gently roasted or something like that, it will taste better because you eat it with high expectations. But if the menu plainly says something like fried chicken, it won't taste that good. You may have heard about the famous Pepsi challenge. When people were made to taste Coca-Cola and Pepsi without the label, they couldn't identify which is which. But when they tasted it with the label, they said Coca-Cola is better because they expected it to be better because of the brand power. That is the power of presentation, basically the power of expectations. Expectations lead to predictions that shape our sensory experience without our conscious knowledge. By the same token, a luxury car feels smoother because we expect it to be smoother. A painting may appear more profound if it is done by a famous painter. But it means that our brains keep taking shortcuts, filling in the reality based on what we already believe. We constantly use these shortcuts even during our social interactions. Evolutionarily, we all have a group instinct, and the default prediction is that if someone is in our group, he's a friend, and people outside of our group are enemies. It is us versus them. This is probably because ancient humans mostly lived in small groups, and rapidly deciding who can be trusted was important for safety and cooperation. But overgeneralizing and stereotyping are no longer necessary in modern world because we have access to far more information and education. Long distance travel and communication allow us to learn about people belonging to other cultures, so we don't have to rely on mental shortcuts and stereotypes. But in reality, we are still struggling to overcome stereotypes based on community, religion, gender, etc. This is an example of how something which was helpful to us in the past can become problematic in the present. Same is true about physical features including skin color, clothing, and body type. They tell us nothing about a person's character and abilities. So, as a society, we need to move beyond outdated assumptions and focus on people's true qualities instead of how they look. Occupational stereotypes are also similar. Sometimes people generalize saying bureaucrats are greedy, politicians are corrupt, and all that. And based on such stereotypes, we judge people even before fully knowing them. So that's how our stereotypes affect our social interactions. In a way, that's how our mind saves energy. It predicts instead of perceiving, filling gaps with experiences from past memory. Most of the time it works, but the problem comes when these expectations harden into rigid beliefs. And then perception turns into prejudice. So how can we see beyond these mental shortcuts? The next time you sip your coffee or admire a painting or meet a stranger, stop. See without the label, taste without the story, experience without the filter. Escaping stereotypes is not about pretending that we don't have them. It's about becoming aware of them. It begins with mindfulness of our thoughts and expectations. Noticing the stories that our mind tells before reality unfolds. Remember that your own emotional state also colors your perceptions. Anger, for example, narrows your perspective and blinds you to the humanity of the other person. So we need to reflect on ourselves and keep re-examining our behavior. And more importantly, stay humble knowing that even though our mind is brilliant, it's not infallible. Because reality bends around what we expect and what we believe. If you found this video useful, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and tell me your opinions in the comments. Thanks for watching. Meet you in the next video.